James, and welcome to my latest review, which is Peter Pig's US Marine Corps range in 15mm. So, looking at the packs, they come in packs of 8 figures, which cost £3.50, or at least they do in June 2020. They're broken down into 3 types, usually within a pack: 3 of one type, 3 of another, and 2 of the third. If it's a weapons team, then it's usually 6 crew and 2 weapons. The figures are well cast. There is next to no flash on any of them. When you look at the Peter Pig catalogue, it's very easy to miss the fact that they do modern US Marines. It's actually in the section on modern Africa. They do have other ranges in there, and potentially in their Vietnam ones, which would be useful to us, and I'll be looking at some of those in future reviews. It's also worth a quick glance at their free figure list. There's a figure which you can see below, which you're entitled to 1 per order. It would make a nice little hero figure. So there's plenty of reference material to help you paint your US Marines. There's a couple of random ospreys that are pulled off the shelf there. They're also perfectly usable as US Army. The figures would look identical in scale. The only time you'd see a change is after the move away from the woodland battle dress uniform, or BDUs, into the service specific one, so that's just a painting difference. There are some slight organisational differences, and we'll look at those later on. But painting the figures up, I've painted mine up in the woodland battle dress uniform, or BDU, which you can see in the picture there. To paint them, I found the easiest way was paint the entire figure green, or you could spray paint it to make your life easier. I then used 2 different coats of brown, a light brown and a dark brown, just putting random splotches all over the figure, not worrying too much about where it went at any particular point, although the one thing I did try and avoid was putting anything onto the M136 or AT4 missiles, because they were painted green. It would save me having to repaint them. Once that was done, I then put the black on for the boots and the weapons, and finally flesh tones onto the figure there. Completely reverse order from the way I normally paint by putting the flesh on first, but it seemed to work very well with just randomly putting the blotches on. Once I'd done that, I used the Army Painter Strong Coat to get that lovely shading effect, which works perfectly on these figures. Yet the camouflage is way over scale, and yet if you really hold it up to 2 inches away from your eyes, the camo isn't really BDU woodland, but on the tabletop it looks fine, and there is a limit to what I can achieve. So let's actually start putting the figures on the tabletop. Now, it is worth saying that the organisations I've got here are best guess. I've used multiple sources that are often contradictory, and even when the organisation chart is concrete, unfortunately troops in the field have got a habit of not following it from quite a few accounts that I've read. So the initial fire teams are nice and simple. The only difference between the Marines and the Army is who's carrying what, but they all carry the same equipment, so you'll get away with it on the tabletop as either. All of those figures are nice and easily available in Peter Pig, and there's plenty of them, so even if you're building up a company, you probably won't need to go above 2 packs of any particular figure. So let's start looking higher levels then. This is where we will differentiate between the Army and the Marines. The Army, nice and straightforward, 2 fire teams plus an NCO across the board. However, mechanised units will make a slight change. They'll replace 1 rifleman per squad with a Dragon wire-guided missile. That means if you are using it for Team Yankee, which uses 1 stand of infantry and 1 of a Dragon, yeah, that works fairly well. So next up we have the Airborne and Air Assault organisation. The platoon there looks very similar. The addition though is a weapon squad with 2 machine gun teams with either M60s or, later in the period, the M240, which is the FN mag. Now, Peter Pig do very nice M240s, and to be perfectly honest, particularly since the butt of the weapon is hidden in the shoulder, you'd be very hard pressed to tell the two of them apart, because that's the easiest recognition feature in this scale. So moving on to the very similar light infantry, the only difference is the dragons have been moved to company level, so they're not organic to the platoon. Now the dragon is a bit of a problem in the Peter Pig range. There aren't any in it. Neither are there most of the other ranges. You can get them in Battlefront, but they come as part of the full unit. To buy them separately, I found Old Glory do the Javelin, which is the successor missile, and although the firing position is slightly different, it will work quite nicely as an alternative. So the mech platoon, fairly straightforward, the 3 squads, the 2 gun teams and the HQ. So Rangers, again fairly straightforward organisation wise. Interestingly, the Dragons were sometimes replaced with 90mm M67s or the 84mm Carl Gustav Mark III. I haven't got figures for those. I'm kind of guessing if I use the small ones for those, that's not going to be a problem, bearing in mind they are actually held at company level for attachment as required. So moving on to the Marines then. A Marine squad is slightly different. It has 3 fire teams instead of 2, and has done since at least the Second World War, where it's often attributed as one of the reasons that the Marines were doing so well compared to army units in the Pacific, because with 3 fire teams, each with a BAR, they could lay down substantially more firepower. So stepping up with the Marines to platoon level, we've got the standard platoon. We also then have attachments that can be attached from company level. There's no organic extra units. Now all of these are available from Battlefront. They do a pack where you can buy 2 gun teams, 2 SMORs and a mortar team. They come complete. 3 of those will actually give you a full weapons platoon. Alternatively, the guns you can get from Peter Pig. The mortars I found in Old Glory. I'm still working on SMOR teams. That is the sticking point at the minute. I tend to game using 7 Days to the River Rhine by Great Escape Games, and I've created a couple of new units for use with this. These are completely unofficial. To cope with the dragon being used within the mechanised squads, what I've actually put together is the statistics for that. It gives you the option of, instead of firing with small arms or law, you can use the dragon. Obviously they are different ranges as well, so it does give a good capacity, but at the cost of only being able to fire 1 and limited flexibility. The second additional unit is Marine SMOR team. Introduced 2 new rules for this: improved law, which gives a penetration of 9H, and a maximum range of 12 for all weapons. That means the SMOR is going to be limited to small arms range, just like the law is. So how well do these blend in with other manufacturers' figures? Well, I don't have any Battlefront, but I do have some of the Plastic Soldier Company figures, which are very much in the same proportion. You can see here I've put some American and Soviet together, and they blend in well enough to work on the tabletop. I can't see any issues there. I've shown them both standing and kneeling, and I can't see any issues with either of them. There's also a very quick shot as well, showing how it compares to the Humvee from Battlefront, and bearing in mind that does have a crew figure, again you can see they blend in pretty well, so they will work quite happily with most armies. Thanks for watching, and I hope you found it useful. Don't forget to click on the subscribe button if you'd like to see more of these. It'll help the channel grow. And give me your comments below. Tell me what you like, what you don't like, and what you think I ought to be reviewing next. See you all soon for another review.